A very good evening and a warm welcome to our first edition of UBC News Tonight on this 14th day of December 2023. I'm Lauryn Masika Kazimoto. We'll start off this news bulletin with our first headlining story this evening. President Museveni has received credentials from 7 ambassadors and high commissioners newly accredited to Uganda. The ambassadors presented their credentials at State House in Entebbe. They included His Excellency Mohammed Khalifi of Algeria, His Excellency Simone Knapp of Austria, His Excellency Pavel Zyatkin of Belarus, His Excellency Matthews Jere of Zambia, His Excellency Naif Hafiz Al-Taibi of Kuwait, His Excellency Tarek Mohammed of Bangladesh, and His Excellency Andrew Onalena of Botswana. Now, during the function, President Museveni welcomed the new ambassadors to Uganda and assured them of the government commitment to work with them to strengthen the cordial relationship among the particular countries. On their part, the ambassadors also promised to work with Uganda based on mutual respect and cooperation. The ambassador of Algeria to Uganda informed President Museveni that his country is in advanced stages of importing quality milk from Uganda. Zambia's ambassador to Uganda, His Excellency Matthews Jere, delivered a warm greetings from His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema to President Museveni and also promised to further strengthen the relationship between the two countries. President Museveni also noted that he was looking forward to welcoming their presidents to Uganda, especially those coming for the Non-Aligned Movement Summit in January next year. Now, President Yoweri Museveni has held discussions with His Majesty Omusinga Charles Wesley Mumbere of Rwenzururu Kingdom and his wife, Her Royal Highness Nyabawole Agnes Atungu, at State House in Entebbe on Wednesday. Now, during the meeting, President Museveni was happy to learn that the Omusinga Rwenzururu had begun a new chapter which is aligned with the vision of the National Resistance Movement to transform Uganda. In his speech, President Museveni said he was glad that the kingdom is now aligned with the NRM vision, which has 3 historical missions which the Africans had failed to see. Museveni also discussed with the Omusinga Mumbere matters of prosperity, socio-economic transformation, and strategic security. Museveni informed the Omusinga, who moved with some of his cabinet members, that the government restored kingdoms to allow traditional leaders to mobilize and cause social economic transformation of the people through, among others, universal education and ensuring that everyone joins the money economy. He revealed that traditional institutions are good if they are handled well. Museveni told Omusinga Mumbere that he was glad to see that the Rwenzururu Kingdom has taken a new path and congratulated him on account that there was no need of having a reversible showdown to abandon the principles of NRM. President Museveni assured the Rwenzururu Kingdom that the government will, in the new financial year, embark on the work of constructing the Kingdom Palace in Kasese and also improve monthly allowances given to the kingdoms.
Okay. And then the other, if you want to start with a family meeting, the prophet went through of us. Yes.
From the side of the kingdom, which is the administrative part of this deck again, and as a kingdom we say it can never happen again, so we can never come. The only way forward is to sensitize our people through the kingdom so that they use the PDM money to go into piggery, to go into poultry, so that for them also they can become productive and they produce for the market other than being commission agents on matoke which comes from Nyarukuru, Bushenya, and cows which come from cows and so on. There are things which we can produce, and the government has put the enabling environment to make sure that these people can also be productive. The Queen in Kasese with a message of hope and a message of reconciliation. That was the stake again. And as a kingdom we say it can never happen again, so we can never commit a mistake again, Your Excellency. In bad and so on. And then finally, Your Excellency, border because the market is already there. Thank you, Your Excellency.
I was telling His Highness when I met Mutebi in London, 1981, and I was telling him that he was telling me about their issues. I said, no, we can support you if the cultural institutions will add value to our journey of the other two missions. Unity for prosperity, unity for strategic security. So if your kingdoms can help that, then we shall support them. If they oppose it, we shall fight them. Fight them. Modern government. These institutions are good if they are handled well. So now the third principle of the NRM is exactly what you are talking about. Socio-economic transformation. Hatu kwa ratunga katare, like you are saying now, akatare karoho Congo, bita bakonji tuwene chiba kutundayo. So that's why we say, once you love Uganda, once you love Africa, as markets, ezokusobora kwihawo obunaku, iwe wenka oyina okuhindura emikorere yawe ibyo uri gukora.
Was it Busongora South?
Yes, Busongora South. I'm glad you remember that.
To bad things. Otherwise, we are not after, because all
The State House Investors Protection Unit unveiled an electronic portal aimed at shielding investors from bureaucratic hurdles and corruption. President Museveni presided over the launch at State House in Entebbe. We have the details.
Investors have long grappled with red tape, bribery and delays in obtaining certificates, deterring potential investors and impeding the country's economic growth. Colonel Edith Nakalema, head of State House Investors Protection Unit, unveiled the technology stressing its connectivity across agencies and ministries to combat corruption. Nakalema highlighted that the portal developed by National Information Technology Authority Uganda will enable investors to lodge complaints directly, with agency heads ensuring prompt feedback to foster investors' trust.
Your Excellency, the key functions of the Electronic Investors Protection Portal include it will offer protection by guiding investors to government MDS for authentic information. Because, Your Excellency, among the many complaints we receive include the investors falling in the hands of fraudsters or wrong elements, maybe to be general, with your permission, Your Excellency. The portal has a reporting mechanism through which investors can inquire or file complaints.
The president commended Nakalema's efforts, underlining Uganda's policy framework for supporting investors. He emphasized that upholding integrity during agency recruitment was pivot in the fight against corruption.
I think the problems have been two. Problem has been the work is a lot, but I think also these groups, your recruitment approach, be careful about the people you recruit. Don't recruit people by looking at their papers. This is not a job. It's not a... I gave the example of how I built up the URA originally. When we came into government, after a few years, I discovered that there was very low collection of taxes. I think the Minister of Finance was Kiong at that time. He's the one who told me that the tax collection that time was 4% of GDP. So there was no collection of taxes. So these agencies don't bring papers, qualification, no. Integrity.
Additionally, President pointed out that Africa's economic potential has been hampered by misguided policies and attitudes towards foreign investors.
East Africa would be very far. So when we watched all this, in the NRM we were very clear. We said no. From the beginning, liberate the private sector. Let the people, yes, the land is, the natural resources are here, the labor is here, let the people with capital come.
According to Inspector General of Government's report, Uganda loses an estimate of 20 trillion shillings annually due to corruption, with 23% of government's annual budget falling victim to this vice. Sada Mubale, UBC News, at State House, Entebbe.
The Prime Minister, Right Honourable Robina Nabbanja, has held several bilateral meetings with development partners at the sidelines of the ongoing Global Refugee Forum in Geneva, Switzerland. The meetings took place at Palexpo in the centre of Geneva and was accompanied by Ministers, Engineer Hilary Onek, in charge of disaster response and refugees, and Esther Anyakum, State Minister for Disaster, and the Deputy Head of Uganda's mission in Geneva, Ambassador Arthur Kafero.
While meeting the Deputy Executive Director Program and Policy Development at World Food Program, Valerie Vianieri, Nabbanja stressed the need to support Uganda by purchasing food for the refugees within the country. Nabbanja says that WFP should make purchases of food from within Uganda to support Ugandans who have hosted refugees well and coexisted.
So I just want to thank you for supporting Uganda to host 1.6 million refugees. We appreciate your support. And the President of the Republic of Uganda says thank you. We are so grateful.
Hilary Onek asked the World Bank to extend grants to Uganda for the refugee response and displacement impact instead of loans.
Basically, it's a refugee program. Problem we are addressing, problem caused by the impact of refugees. Now, what we are saying to the World Bank, we should not borrow this money. Give us this grant because we address those challenges created by the presence of refugees. But now the World Bank says, no, you take half of this money to be grant, half to be loan. Now you're adding loan on us. We are already choked by loans. Because all this budget support we have been getting every year, budget control, budget support, all this budget support money coming, these are all loans.
Valerie Granieri lauded Uganda for its policy on hosting refugees and said that it's a model country in the whole world when it comes to hospitality to refugees.
And commitment that Uganda has shown for your brothers and sisters in neighboring countries. It's been a real inspiration for us and also for other countries to see how you have not just opened your borders to people in need, but also allow them to have land, have allowed them to move freely, allow them to integrate also into communities. I mean, this is why Uganda is a model.
Assured the country that WFP has started local purchase of food being supplied to refugees, and this is the trend being taken.
None of the maize and none of the beans and pulses were purchased anywhere but Uganda. All of it was purchased inside of Uganda, and that's the 44 million. So you can tell the president that we are moving in the direction that he would like us to be moving.
In a related development, the Prime Minister also met the Foreign Affairs Minister for Japan, Yoko Kamikawa, and they discussed a wide range of bilateral issues between the two countries. Nabanja says that Uganda and Japan have enjoyed cordial relationship and both countries continue to flourish in business. Yoko Kamikawa assured the delegation of Japan's continued support to the development agenda of the country.
President Yoweri Museveni received a letter from His Eminence Mubadje, the Mufti of Uganda, dated November 29, 2023, addressing disputes concerning the sale of Muslim properties. In his correspondence, President Museveni expressed awareness of these conflicts, but initially didn't focus on them, relying on capable national institutions, particularly the judiciary headed by Chief Justice Owiny-Dollo, to handle such matters. President Museveni conveyed surprise at learning from Mufti Mubadje's letter that among the affected Muslim properties was the National Mosque at Old Kampala. He questioned the rationale behind such actions, considering it irrational for any person, let alone a judge, to order the attachment of a mosque or church due to debts incurred by faith officials. He emphasized the need for laws protecting places of worship, asserting the necessity of common sense in such matters. The President urged Chief Justice Owiny-Dollo to personally review the situation and restore order. He highlighted allegations by His Eminence Mubadje regarding further instances of misconduct and collusion, emphasizing his astonishment at the audacity of attaching the National Mosque. President Museveni made it clear that such reasoning contradicts the principles of the NRM freedom fighters and the government they lead. The Uganda Muslim Supreme Council in Old Kampala addressed the issue of Muslim properties in light of recent court rulings. Additionally, State Minister of Housing, Honorable Pacis Namuganza, denounced extremist behavior concerning Muslim affairs during a gathering at the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council headquarters in Old Kampala.
At the Old Kampala Muslim headquarters, various Muslim leaders, including Mufti of Uganda, Sheikh Shaban Ramadhan Mubadje, and State Minister of Housing, Pacis Namuganza, celebrated the favorable ruling by the Supreme Court in support of the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council. Subsequently, during a media briefing, Dr. Muhammad Kisambira, the national chairman of the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, elucidated on the court's decisions. He expressed gratitude to the Judiciary Department and the President.
everybody who in their different capacities made sure that this justice is served to us. What we prayed for was being heard before these items could be taken. We have been denied that chance, and we are glad that in our appeal we've been granted leave to go and defend the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council. To assure Ugandans and my brothers and sisters in Islam that as UMSC we are committed to getting a long-term solution to this debacle through all the available means.
A big warning to the business people. As we do the businesses, let us have a limit as we do the businesses. You can't go to the trade whereby you enter into even selling and compensating with Islamic property. Honestly, it's not good. Remember, this is Allah's property. It's for God. How can you start coming that and you're ready? This is masjid. Its purpose, people they use to pray for it from it.
You have proved them wrong.
Katamba, Jamilu Sekajja, UBC News.
The government of Uganda has announced that all top government officials, including ministers, will surrender all their vehicles to enable government to use them during the 10 days activity of the non-aligned movement and G77 China summits, while receiving a fleet of 70 Maxus D90 SUVs donated to Uganda by the Chinese government. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Vincent Bajire, said government will withdraw the vehicles from the holders starting the 18th of December 2023 and park them at Kololo grounds for maintenance.
The government of Uganda has received a donation of 70 new Maxus D90 SUVs vehicles from the government of China towards the preparations of the non-aligned movements and G77 plus China summits. Present at the ceremony held at the Works and Transport Ministry in Kampala was the Chinese ambassador to Uganda, His Excellency Zhang Liang.
Supports Uganda in maintaining national stability, exploring development paths according to its own conditions. China supports Uganda in opposing external interference and hegemonic and bullying, and defending its sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity.
The State Minister for Works and Transport, Musa Echeru, hailed the government of China for its continued relationship with Uganda.
2 years back, we had just close to about 1,000 kilometers of paved roads. As we stand now, we have close to over 6,000 kilometers of paved road in Uganda, and 3/4 of that has been done courtesy of the People's Republic of China.
Echeru was quick at saying whereas donations are welcome, however, this should not be a substitute for the country's culture and morals.
Some people would have loved to give us this, but they would have dictated us to even change our culture, to change the way we behave, to change the way we... But for you, you have given us this, and you continue to respect our values and us to respect your values.
China will stay in close communication and cooperation with Uganda in areas such as human rights, counter-terrorism, poverty reduction, and tackling climate change, and uphold common interests of China and Uganda and the common interests of the developing countries.
The Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Vincent Wajiri, announced the government's decision to recall all government vehicles with ministers to be used by delegates and heads of state during the 10 days hosting of the Non-Aligned Movement and the G77 plus China summits in January next year.
What we mean by government cars are vehicles that reside in the ministries, departments and agencies. And the vehicles we are targeting are the vehicles of the minister, the vehicles of the PS, the vehicles of the directors, and all those entitled officers. So these vehicles shall be retrieved from them starting on the 18th of December. We shall park them in Kololo, utilize them for the summit, and then return them to the entitled officers.
For effective management of transport means for VIPs and VVIPs, the Ugandan government needs over 1,000 vehicles, hence the recall of all government vehicles being used by ministers. Meanwhile, the Chinese donation to Uganda government is part of the another 70 fleet of SUVs received by Uganda in 2020 from Chinese government. Robert Nyango, UBC News.
Thank you, Robert Onyango. Now, Makerere University Hospital, a subsidiary of Makerere College of Health Sciences, has registered a milestone after successfully performing a first cochlear implant surgery on a 13-year-old Valerie Nanono. According to Alego Olga, Nanono's mother, at 9 years, Nanono suffered from meningitis disease that left her in a muted world in 2019. Since then, efforts to correct the devastating condition of Nanono were launched that involved going to as far as India, but with little progress.
December 12, 2023 is a day that both Valerie Nanono and her family will not forget in a hurry. The day marked the beginning of a new dawn. This is the day that efforts to unmute the world of a 13-year-old who deafened at 9 years started to yield results.
Although my hearing, it won't be exactly normal. It will be a bit different from normal hearing. I think that's also why I can't hear exactly. That's why I can't hear now, because I think it's different. That's why they said.
To Alego Olga, Nanono's mother, the daughter was born a normal child, had a bright childhood with all the senses functional. However, in 2019, a dark cloud started hovering over Nanono's life as she suffered multiple illnesses, including leukemia and meningitis.
She started getting fevers, so we'd go to clinics, pharmacies. They would treat malaria, treat bacteria infection, typhoid, but it never ever went down. So we continued that way. That was in about 2019 in February. So this went on up to about June, when she now really deteriorated. Her palms were white, her mouth, her eyes, her feet, and she was very weak and losing appetite.
Since then, Valerie Nanono has been living in a muted world.
She'd only hear bullets, slams of doors only, but when you call her Valerie, a car, she can't hear. Nothing. So it was another depression for the family.
Attempts to restore Nanono's hearing sense led the family to a number of medical facilities, both in Uganda and abroad. As fate would dictate, the family was later advised to seek treatment locally in Uganda, and this led them to Makerere University Hospital.
So we had to use a special technique that we've just started using. It just got approval from our government, our NIH, and got grants to do 25 patients, but since it's working so well, I thought I would use it here as well.
Despite the surgery being successful, Nanono has other 2 hurdles to jump before the cochlear becomes fully useful to her.
It will take approximately a month or 3 to 4 weeks. The wound will have healed, and then we will attach a processor and then switch on the gadget. Okay, because this is a powered gadget, the electric batteries, and we switch on.
For this reason, the family appeals to well-wishers to to come to their rescue.
We're trying to raise about $15,000.
These implants require a lot of supplies after. They need batteries, they need the wires. At times they get spoiled, children spoil them. So we keep in stock for them to keep coming and pick whatever they are picking.
As she waits for Good Samaritans, Nanono will continue relying on the application that she has been using for her communication needs until the processor is fully fixed.
It's like you've been in a dark room forever and suddenly the light is switched on. It's overwhelming. So you begin the stimulation of the nerve in rather a gradual way so that the child or the individual gets to optimize the map within about 6 visits.
Cochlear implantation is usually the last resort for mostly children, after it's concluded that hearing aids or other interventions cannot be of help. Dr. Kazimoto, UBC News.
Thank you, Dr. Kazimoto, for that. And of course, we do wish Nanono the very best in this journey. Well, UBC News Tonight takes a very short break. We will be right back after these messages.
"1961 Facts about NAM." The Non-Aligned Movement, NAM, is a forum of 120 countries that are not formally aligned with or against any major power bloc. It was founded with a view of advancing interests of developing countries in the context of the Cold War confrontation. After the United Nations, it is the largest grouping of states worldwide.
Bus Industries, Namamve, the manufacturers of buses for transporters, schools, tour operators, and special purpose vans and any customized vehicle. Metu Bus Industries offers a range of buses known for safety, comfort, and reliability. Depending on your needs, a bus can simply be a point A to point B people mover with just seats, or a special design that includes power outlet, Wi-Fi, television, refreshment center, and any other specification. Buy your buses from Metu and support industrialization of Uganda. Contact us on 0788 118586 or 0782 030303. Email us metuafricabus@gmail.com. Visit our website www.metubusafrica.com.
Meet Stone Atwine, the co-founder of Eversend, a startup that is building financial technology from Uganda to the world. From currency exchange to business banking, Stone and his team are doing it all. Stone embodies the grit and the commitment to take a startup from nothing to something. Stone, keep building. You are unstoppable. MTN, the Unstoppable Network, celebrates you. Download the Eversend app or visit eversend.com, and together, let's support Ugandans like Stone who are driving our country's unstoppable progress.
In this family, we can't agree on anything.
Martha.
We can't even agree on what to watch. All the games to play.
Martha.
Ndoza Mulabi, we can't even agree on what to eat. At least the one thing for now we can all agree on is the soap to use. He likes that it's big and lasts long. Anti-economy. I like that it keeps my skin smooth. Ate alina echovu. And the children like that. It smells amazing. Everyone is happy. Movit soap comes in 4 fantastic flavors. Movit family soap is truly soap for the whole family.
Movit. All day confidence.
Sebo.
Yes?
This is the bill.
What?
Malaria testing, 10,000. Treatment, 100,000 since we put on drip.
Hey, Musao, can you read this for me? Before I brought my wife here, I'd already spent money on buying herbal medicine and drugs from the pharmacy, which didn't work.
But Sebo, the government gave out mosquito nets. Doesn't your family use them?
We got the mosquito nets, but they got holes and we didn't know what to do.
Protect your loved ones from malaria. Sew your mosquito nets whenever they get damaged to keep the mosquitoes away. Ensure all nets are tied up every morning to avoid damaging them. Ensure that everyone in your family sleeps under a treated mosquito net every night, whether it is a cold or hot season. Together, we can chase malaria out of Uganda. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health with support from Global Fund.
No malaria will catch.
Are you passionate about a healthy living and wealth generation for your household? Learn how you can easily tap wealth and health from Mother Nature using science and technology. Omukenkufu Nyanzi Julius Echuma Chiwagala Chuma has written a knowledge-packed book, Money Grows on Trees, Sente Zimera Committee. Grab your copy today at 20,000 shillings only at Prof Bioresearch Equatorial Mall, Aristoc Booklex branches, Acacia Mall, Garden City, Kampala Road, and Jumia, Uganda. Or call 0703 152 152 for deliveries. Remember, Money Grows on Trees, Sente Zimera Committee book is autographed by Omukenkufu Nyanzi Julius himself.
Welcome back from that break, and we're glad that you're still with us. Now, the Forum for Democratic Change, FDC, based in Najanankumbi, urges their colleagues conducting business in Katonga to return home, emphasizing the open doors of the party headquarters as a welcoming gesture. In anticipation of the 17th National Council meeting scheduled for tomorrow at the party headquarters, the party has arranged a Christmas carols function. This event aims to prepare party members for the upcoming festive season, as stated by Robert Centenary, the party vice president for the Western region. Centenary highlights the importance of unity as they approach the new year 2024.
We had an opportunity to have a representation from the entire country. We found it prudent to start with the Christmas carols as a precursor to tomorrow's meeting under the theme Overcoming the Storm and focusing on party unity and growth. Constitutional requirement that National Council is the supreme organ of the party. We need to pass a number of resolutions on how the party is going to move going forward. We had a number of pending issues. We have districts that never participated in the elections. We need to make key decisions and resolutions that will allow the leadership of the party and the administrators to run the party. Call to our colleagues who are still in disarray to come back home, because whatever it is that they expected out there seems not to be forthcoming. Therefore, we don't want you and ourselves to begin the year 2024 on a bad note. We want to open a new leaf, new chapter in our lives as the FDC, and we want to focus on reconciliation, unity and party building.
Ugandan drivers have been urged to ensure they have first aid kits fixed in their vehicles for safety of their lives in case of any emergencies. This message was delivered by the Minister of Works and Transport, General Edward Katumba Wamala, at the launch of emergency care and healthcare services by Samaritan Healthcare Support System in Kampala. General Katumba is convinced that the trainings will help reduce on the overwhelming death numbers due to road accidents.
Successive steps in total emergency care involve local authorities and lay citizens for initial care and transportation, medical and paramedical personnel under medical supervision for definitive treatment.
Everybody clear? Shot delivered? Okay, do and CPR. Okay, so at this point, Donato, please give 300 milligrams of amiodarone IV push.
However, one of the serious problems today in both the lay and professional areas of responsibility for total care is the broad gap between knowledge and its application. It's against this backdrop that Samaritan Healthcare Systems, in partnership with the American Heart Association, started an initiative to train Ugandans on how to improve health care.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm auscultating. We need to find out, because I feel like we are having a ways in healing confirm. The reason behind this initiative is to improve survival, to improve the chain of survival, so that if somebody has a cardiac arrest or an event in the field, that person can be safely resuscitated by the people around them. For example, if somebody has a cardiac arrest in the house, maybe the house girl will know how to do CPR.
Over 50 students have attained different skills in health care and certified by qualified instructors. And the course required a prerequisite to the more advanced training of lifeguards, rescue squad personnel, ambulance attendants, to mention but a few.
So Dennis, you can drive. Hope you have notified the hospital. They are ready to receive us. So, okay, let me do.
Compassion, I gained confidence, and I gained skills on how to handle people during emergencies in their lives. This is something that I hope to share with everybody.
Officiating at the event, the Minister of Works and Transport, General Edward Katumba Wamala, called on Ugandans, especially drivers, to ensure they have first aid kits in their vehicles.
There is an accident. You find people, instead of helping an accident victim, you take out your phone and you start filming. That's what most people do. But it means that that person's life is in danger. Very, very few of our vehicles have a first aid kit, even just a bandage or anything. It is true, but this has been enforced, at least in buses. Most of the buses have these kits, so it would be even advisable, not only in public transport, but also in your personal vehicle. How much does a first aid kit cost? So it would encourage people to have this, so that you can be able to. It may not respond to you, but you may respond to a friend whom you find on the way needing that kind of help.
The founder of Samaritan Healthcare Systems, Dr. Moses Chitakule, says the main purpose for his idea is to see the decrease in the mortality rate while providing healthcare services to everyone. Dr. Chitakule wants steadfast ambulances and other equipment to be availed across the country to save lives.
Our initial outcomes, if we put this all over the country, may not be so good to begin off with, but we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere, and along the way we improve the whole chain of survival. So if I improve the ambulance that takes the patient to the hospital. I improve the emergency room that receives the patient. I improve the cath lab that's going to open up the blockages in the heart. I improve the operating room. I improve the ICU, and then I improve aftercare. With time, we are going to make a difference.
I'm Ivan Juko for UBC.
Much for taking this class very seriously.
The Court of Appeal in Kampala has halted the auctioning of Muslim property in a bid to recover 19.2 billion shillings by businessman Justice Chabahwa. The ruling was made by 3 justices of Court of Appeal led by Deputy Justice Richard Buteda.
The Court of Appeal sitting in Kampala before 3 justices led by Deputy Chief Justice Richard Butera, Justice Irene Mulyagonja and Justice Geoffrey Chiriabwire have issued an order halting the sale of Muslim property by businessman Justice Chabahwa to recover over 19 billion shillings. The alleged money Chabahwa claims to have bought land from Uganda Muslim Stream Council in 2020.
Nesalibwawo nti tewali kutunda ebintu bya Busiraamu era tuli basanyufu bulijjo tubagamba ne tubategeeza nti okutunda ebintu by'Abasiraamu tebasobola kutunda just like that era tuli basanyufu nnyo bulijjo tubategeeza nti ffe tulina trust in our judiciary era bakoze ddala bulungi era balabye ensonga where it is era so kyekyo twebaza nnyo judiciary na balabye ne basalira omusango.
The appellant court allowed the application pending determination of the main appeal, in which Uganda Muslim Supreme Council wants court to quash the commercial court decision of giving Chabahwa justice a leeway to sell off Muslim property over an outstanding debt of 19 billion.
Kutereka omulamwa gukyaliwo, judgment esigaddewo, apiilu eri wano, bantu bagiwadde obudde tugiwulira ejja kuwulirwa naye nga bwe tuli essaawa eno Uganda Muslim Supreme Council tugibanja era tukyagibanja obukadde biliyoni 19 ne miliyoni.
The order halting the auctioning of the Muslim property was not detailed. However, the Deputy Chief Justice Richard Butera promised to deliver the detailed ruling on notice. The application that led to the halt of selling of Muslim property rises from an application filed by Uganda Muslim Supreme Council against businessman Justice Chabahwa from auctioning the facilities. Businessman Chabahwa was allowed by the Commercial Division of the High Court to auction 9 properties belonging to the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council to be able to recover 19.2 billion shillings. The assets included Old Kampala Mosque, Plot 5463 in Chadondo, land at Chanja, and a 1 square mile tract of land in Buikwe, 1 acre piece of land on Bass Road in Jinja City, land in Mbale City, Hoima, among others. Uganda Muslim Supreme Council listened to lost their bid to stop the sale of the property in the case which was before Justice Christopher Gashabake, who declined to stay the execution of the order to attach and sell the property. The execution order was to be implemented by Lowsy auctioners bailiffs after the elapse of 30 days issued by the Commercial Court Registrar. Rebecca Nantongo, Deborah Nemamonde, UBC News.
State Minister of Housing, Honorable Persis Namuganza, emphasized the importance of unity among Muslims, especially in aiding the less fortunate. She extended gratitude to One Ummah, Uganda's leadership, including Sheikh Elias Chigozi and Hajat Shania Chigozi, for their assistance to the needy. This was conveyed during the Zakat distribution event held at the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council headquarters in Old Kampala.
According to One Ummah, Uganda's country director, Hajat Shania Chigozi, over 300 Muslims from various regions have received Zakat support. She encouraged all Ugandans to seek assistance from One Ummah, stressing their non-discriminatory approach based on race, religion, and politics.
Allah did it to put to make people live the same level and live in peace and love. Whenever those people who are well off they stand with the needy people, it creates love and security and even give the respect within the citizen.
We managed to get beneficiaries from different districts. That include Namutumba, we have some from Hoima, we have from Kamwenge, Luwero, Wakiso, Kampala, and some other districts. We are distributing Zakat to different kind of people, whereby we are considering the orphans, the needy, those who would like to set up new businesses, and those who would also like to add into their businesses. We are doing this just to help our government and also fulfilling one of the pillars of Islam, and that is Zakat.
The first Deputy Mufti of Uganda, Sheikh Muhammad Semmambo, thanked Sheikh Elias Chigozi and Ajit Shania Chigozi for their support to Muslims and all Ugandans, especially the poor. Honorable Persis Namuganza, the State Minister of Housing, expressed gratitude to One Huma Uganda for their support to rural Ugandans. Robert Katamba, Jamil Sekajja, UBC News.
Ministry of Health and Nutrition Division has launched the Adolescent Nutrition Advocacy Strategy to, among other things, advocate for the drafting and operationalization of adolescent nutrition policies and strategies. One of the key issues in the report is increasing access to nutritious foods, especially for school-going adolescents.
Is one of the key transformative stages in one's physical and mental development. This means adequate nutrition is essential to support the growth. Uganda has an estimated 9 million adolescents, representing 26% of the country's population. Given this background, the Ministry of Health Nutrition Division is working with the East, Central and Southern African Community, a regional intergovernmental health organization, to advocate for adolescent nutrition. In this regard, the Adolescent Nutrition Strategy has been launched.
Nutrition affects both the physical growth but also the cognitive function. And as you know that there's a triple dividend if you invest in the nutrition of young people. And because they are, first of all, the future generation, their own health, but also the aspect of what kind of people, productivity which they can become, because this is part of the human capital. So nutrition already has been one of the things which government has been investing, because if you look at the reproductive, maternal and child health program, nutrition is already captured. And even in the NDP3, there's aspect of nutrition. But what we want to emphasize that we still need, even in NDP4, we should be able to emphasize the aspect of nutrition.
Adolescents have challenges around skipping meals. When you go to school and interact with these girls, you interact with these young boys, they will tell you all stories. They want to keep slim, especially for the girls. And this is not healthy for their lives. First of all, they cannot have all the nutrients that are required for their normal growth and development.
Malnutrition has negative health consequences to both male and female adolescents, including poor performance at school.
Adolescent is a rapid growth apart from the early childhood. So when we focus on adolescents, we are helping them to catch up with the growth that they need during the childhood. And that is also a way of helping them to avoid being malnourished during this age, and then also for their future. Because once you are malnourished, it may have complications for the future of cardiovascular related diseases, obesity and overweight.
Nutrition education to empower adolescents to understand their health and growth is one of the components in the adolescent nutrition strategy. Adia Nakuti, UBC.
Metu Bus Industries, Namamve, the manufacturers of buses for transporters, schools, tour operators, and special purpose vans and any customized vehicle. Metu Bus Industries offers a range of buses known for safety, comfort, and reliability. Depending on your needs, a bus can simply be a point A to point B people mover with just seats, or a special design that includes power outlet, Wi-Fi, television, refreshment center, and any other specification. Buy your buses from Metu and support industrialization of Uganda. Contact us on 0788 118586 or 0782 030303. Email us metuafricabus@gmail.com. Visit our website www.metubusafrica.com.
Meet Stone Atwine, the co-founder of Adolescent, a startup that is building financial technology from Uganda to the world. From currency exchange to business banking, Stone and his team are doing it all. Stone embodies the grit and the commitment to take a startup from nothing to something. Stone, keep building. You are unstoppable. MTN, the Unstoppable Network, celebrates you. Download the Eversend app or visit eversend.com, and together, let's support Ugandans like Stone who are driving our country's unstoppable progress.
Do you need data collection services, data analysis and reporting, monitoring and evaluation systems? Then contact Mold Technologies, a professional research firm that has provided many organizations with timely research solutions for over 15 years. For more information, visit www.nt.co.ug or call us on 0704 913 399 or 0782 602 963. Visit our office in Kampala at Sayuni Complex in Tinda. Mood Technologies, your professional research firm.
I got it. What do you mean you got it? Have you won a lottery?
Yes, this is kind of like a lottery to me.
Let me see. But these are URA receipts now.
Yes, exactly my point. See, I had tax areas that had accumulated for a while now, and I was burdened by the penalties and the interest. But guess what? All I had to do was to pay my principal tax, and now I'm free.
What?
Yes.
How? I mean, it's impossible.
It is possible. The government has done it. Yes, the government has given a chance to all taxpayers to pay their outstanding principal tax that accrued until 30th of June with no interest or penalties.
But now they're really
imagine, yes. So yeah, all you have to do is simply pay your principal tax and enjoy the waiver on penalties and interest. And this goes up to the end of December 2023.
How do I do that to also enjoy the waiver?
All you have to do is simply pay your principal tax to benefit from waiver on interests and penalties that runs till end of December 2023. Pay your outstanding principal tax using the available payment channels or simply dial *285# or visit the nearest URA office for guidance before 31st December 2023. Remember, this chance comes only once.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Wait, Titus, you need to take your medicine.
But Mom, they are playing without me.
Here, swallow your medicine fast. I don't want you to get another headache from that infection.
Medicines help us feel better when we are ill, but sometimes they can cause side effects. By reporting side effects, you help us learn about the medicine we use. This improves quality of care for each patient. Always report suspected side effects to NDA. Together, we can make medicines safer for everyone. This message is brought to you by National Drug Authority with support from Global Fund.
Welcome back. And now into the business scene. Technical participants from different vocational training centers across the country have been impacted with technical skills in solar energy as a vocational training and learning for development and sustainable energy for all. The training of trainers held in Bombo Luwero district and being supported by Australia's development agency through the UN Ainwelt.
Of trainers was attended by participants from 3 Don Bosco vocational training centers in Uganda. The training aimed at imparting current market knowledge and skills on solar water heating and drying to enable trainers offer relevant training to students C. Magdalene Frank, the technical advisor in solar energy, said the program has been able to provide skills to many people, especially the youth, in a number of areas, among which include electrical and solar installations, with the aim of preparing them for the job market.
We have a training in improving our knowledge about solar technology. Of course, all of them are already experts, but since the technology is also changing a lot, we try to keep updated, and that's why we are offering this training right now.
The project is also a vocational training and learning for sustainable development as a contribution to inclusive, equitable, and quality education.
And in addition to the participants of the Bosco Vocational Training Centers, we also opened up the training for external people, and they could apply for the training.
So we need to go back in the community so that we can bring the awareness, we can train the local people carrying out some small installations, the guide and how best they can install this solar PV system.
The Austrian Development Corporation, through Jagain Heinwald, provides environmental education programs to primary and secondary schools as part of development green clubs to interactively sensitize children and young people to environment and climate protection.
Move on the environmental conservation, because now if we are moving to solar, some of the activities like cooking, lighting, we shall not be cutting firewood. We shall be using the harvest from the sun to do a number of activities in our homes.
Solar panels does not have brain. Whenever the sun is there, it will continue sending power to the battery. So the battery needs that component, that guide, that can monitor it and it sees that the battery is now full. Let me limit what is coming from the solar panel.
This training also aimed at enabling population to install and maintain decentralized solar power systems and contributing to climate resilient development program Z. Robert Katamba, UBC News.
And into sports, Special Olympics Uganda is commemorating a triumphant year in 2023, marked by increased recognition and exceptional performances by athletes at the recently concluded World Special Olympics Games in Germany. Uganda accomplished a historic feat by securing 5 medals, a remarkable achievement unprecedented since its inception. During the year-end celebrations, the organization highlighted government's recognition, the growing number of athletes, their outstanding international performances, and the widespread expansion of the sports across the country.
Of what we can accomplish as the humankind if we put our minds to doing things together to remove some of the barriers that prevent us from growth really as individuals, especially in our community as intellectually disabled people. So that is who we are, that is our agenda. As you can see, we are happy people, we play because the major tool we use is really sports. That is our tool. And so fitness is critical. Our coaches are incredible. Our agenda is to use sports to bridge the gaps that are created by the stigma that comes along as a result of one being intellectually disabled. So there has to be a distinction. This is not general disability, but it's intellectual disability that we tackle. So it's very laser focused, and we approach it with several partners to help us go into the communities and work with schools and families to get out the children and in fact adults that are suffering or have symptoms of intellectual disability.
This year, I should say we've had a lot of tremendous achievements. We've managed to represent the team at the World Games and we brought medals. So we are celebrating our achievement for the year. We've managed to partner with different organizations, government.
But do join us for another episode at 10 o'clock. For now, You Health Chat is up next.
The family of the late Emmanuel Babalanda announces the untimely demise of Mrs. Clementine Nambuya Babalanda, which occurred on 9th of December 2023 at International Hospital, Kampala. Vigil will be held on 17th December 2023, 4 p.m. at Cobb Road, Seta. There will be a Requiem Mass on 18th December 2023 starting at 12 p.m. at St. Paul's Catholic Church, Mukono. Burial will take place on 20th December 2023 starting with the Mass at 10 a.m. and burial will be at 2 p.m. at the family home in Namunsi, Nakaroke, Mbale off Kumi Road. Informed our relatives, friends and in-laws. May her soul rest in eternal peace.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
A very good evening to you who is watching UBC TV. Thank you for joining me, Sophia Matovu, on You Health Chat. Now, of course, we still trend with some of the topics that are very big topics when it comes to health. And the topic we are still trending with is ending AIDS by 2030. I'm not the expert when it comes to some of these topics, but I have a very special person with me on set, and she's none other than Dr. Noeline Kaleba, who is the founder of TASO. I know many of you know about TASO in Uganda, but she has a very huge CV. I'll not break it down for you. I'll get her to introduce herself and give you a little bit more about herself. Doctor, very good evening to you.
Good evening, and good evening, viewers. It's such a blessing to have this opportunity to interact with Ugandans through this medium. My name, like you said, is Noeline Kaleba Wanyana. I am of Nsenene clan. And so if I don't really take kindly to people who are chasing after Nsenene right now, I am the founder of TASO, which we founded with my late husband, Christopher Kaleba, who was among the early Ugandans to be diagnosed with AIDS. Christopher was diagnosed in June 1986. He lost his life to AIDS on the 23rd of January 1987. Now, within that space of time, we had been inspired, I can say negatively inspired, by the stigma and the isolation with which we were, confronted after his diagnosis. Bless him, he decided before he succumbed to the disease that he would want to do something about it. And we realized that this disease was already with us here in Uganda. This is 1986. At that time, this information was not equitably available to many of us, including those of us, because at the time, I was the principal of the School of Physiotherapy in Mulago Hospital here. And my husband had been working as a radiographer, but had upgraded his education, had gone to Makerere where he He first did his first degree, and then he had been working as a teaching assistant in one of the faculties, I forget which one at the time, but had been offered at the time a scholarship from the British Council to go to England to do his master's degree, which he did successfully and completed. And it was a time that he had just finished his master's degree that he was diagnosed with AIDS. He collapsed during a session in school, and he was taken to hospital. And when they did the tests, they found that he was HIV positive. And for me, that was the first time I really, getting that information with him so far away from home, because I had stayed home because we had at that time 4 children. I was 32 years old and my husband was 34. We were a very young couple, but we had worked hard, and pretty quickly through the systems, we had had our 4 children. We had already made our decision that we're not going to have any more children. And we were both focusing on seeing how we can prepare ourselves to take care of this. Now, fast forward, before Christopher died, because he died in Mulago Hospital, we started looking through the medical wards, because like I said, I was working in Mulago Hospital, so I had access to patients. So I went around looking for other patients that might have a similar diagnosis with my husband. It wasn't difficult to find them, because the first patients we found with AIDS were totally isolated. And like I've said in many publications, I share this story, and I encourage Ugandans to go to the TASO website and read these stories, because they are published there. But the majority of people with who we mobilized to set up the first support group in Africa for people living with HIV were people who had been left, brought to hospital, Mulago Hospital, and abandoned by their families. For me, that was the first experience of a disease for which someone can bring their loved one to hospital and abandon them. You know that even the poorest family, normally, of course, some circumstances can dictate that some people are left. But at that time, 1986, I had never seen a patient who is by themselves isolated on the hospital. So these are the people that my husband by that time was very weak. He wasn't able to walk, but because I was healthy, and by the way, should say that because he was diagnosed while in England, the British Council here in Kampala made arrangements for me to go to England to be with him, because even by that time he was very, very weak. He had one of the worst opportunistic infections that we know, that at that time absolutely meant death, and that is called cryptococcal meningitis. And for many Ugandans who are listening today, the question would be, was he not put on treatment? There was no treatment for HIV at that time, 1986. And if you were diagnosed and you are already very ill, the time between the time you are diagnosed and when you die was very short. So like I said, Christopher was diagnosed in June 1986. He died in January 1987. But within that period, that's when we did the mobilization. We set up a support group for ourselves primarily, for me, my husband, and those young men and women like David Rule, Jason Bazebulala, Nesta Banyenzachi, Roso Jamuge. These are the founders of TASO. And when I say founders of TASO, I am the only surviving founder of TASO of the original group. And the reason I will again share with you Ugandans, I did take a test very early when I arrived in England, and I was given a negative result. But the doctor who gave me the results said, oh, Mrs. Kaleba, we don't know what is happening because the virus in your blood doesn't show. Today, I know why he said that. He was as ignorant as I was. At that time, the concept of discordancy hadn't been understood. So he didn't know, he had not met a couple where one is HIV positive and the other one is not yet infected. I emphasize the concept of not yet infected because I know today, and I want many Ugandans to understand that being discordant is not a permanent situation if you don't take steps to protect yourself. I thank today, I will always be thankful to my husband that he made that decision and said, you know, I am HIV positive. They are saying you are negative, so I am not going to ever infect you because I want you to remain and take care of our children. And so that helped me a lot. You know, when you have a spouse who is dying, the emotions are very heavy. I would look at my husband because I was given no room to even doubt that he would be dead soon, despite the fact that they gave him the best care. We were in a hospital called Castle Hill Hospital in Hull, and he was given the best care possible. But we were given to understand right from the beginning that there was no treatment for the virus, but that they are able to treat the opportunistic infections that are caused by the virus. And this is where the seed of that grew into tassel was made in this hospital. By the time I came back here, I understood pretty well that even if a person has AIDS and they may not be cured, their quality of life can be improved by treating the opportunistic infections, by being empathetic with them, by explaining to them some of the basic steps they can take to improve and prolong their lives. So it is because it was explained to me very, very clearly at Castle Hill Hospital when we began to set up the support group here in Uganda. That is the basis upon which we set up TASO.
How did you manage to pull through? Because I'm you know, like, I just imagine all the emotions and everything that you went through. Now, having found out that you're discordant, how did you manage to beat the stigma? Because remember, that didn't exist at that time. And I remember the times when they used to talk about it, you were also being pointed fingers at, and everybody was just thinking, she's hiding under the carpet, but she is also, you know, infected.
I'll never forget, you know, there would be times when I would be going through the car park, the taxi park, because one of the elements of the very, very early elements of our struggle was we made a decision to be open, both Christopher and I. And I also am very thankful because Christopher's family was very supportive. Because what we found out is the people that we were reaching out and encouraging them to come and join us as a support group and fight. We fight together, we fight in the open. Some of them were very willing to be open, but their families were adamant. Don't bring that curse on our family. If you went and caught AIDS, don't tell other people that you are a member of our family and you have AIDS. So many people were being stopped to take up what they wanted to do by the families. So I am very grateful to Christopher Kaleba's family. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law, they were both still alive at that time. They have already gone to be with the Lord. My brothers-in-law, they were very, very supportive. And so when we shared with them what we wanted to do, they said, we will support you. We will support you if that's what you think you need to do. So the stigma was excruciating. At the time, we lived on Buganda Road flats. And the children were going to Buganda Road Primary School and Nakasero Primary School, the two children that were already going to school. So there came a time we were living on the third floor. after Christopher came back, before he died, there came a time that if I needed to take Christopher out for a walk. If the moment I started down the stairs to actually go, because we're on the 3rd floor, to go down, if the neighbors would be around, suddenly everybody has disappeared. You look and everybody has disappeared. You can imagine, you know, these are neighbors you've lived with and they have been your friends, and it made me so angry. What else also made me angry, and you know, anger is a very powerful emotion. You thank God if He guides you, that you use that anger positively. I think I can witness that I used my anger against stigma positively by mobilizing others and saying to people that if we don't stand up for ourselves, nobody will stand up for us. I mean, today we have a saying, webereremu in Luganda. I don't know how that translates in English. Webereremu. We gave that example visibly. So the early people who joined us took a risk, but they took a risk on behalf of the many today who are enjoying care and treatment. And I'm not saying stigma has gone out, but it is much less. It is and they are gallant men and women who are living positively with HIV and can stand up. I mean, like the recent World AIDS Day experience we had, Dr. Watiti is a medical doctor. He stood out there. I felt so proud of that young man. He's not so young, but I really felt like a mother who was part of the process that has brought people through hell. Because, you know, AIDS is a devastating disease, but the stigma related to it is even more devastating, because it's not only limited to the person who is HIV positive, it transcends to the family. I remember my children, during one of the recent publications I have made, they share their experiences of stigma as children of Christopher and Noreen Kaleba. At that time, I did not bother to tell Ugandans that I had taken the HIV test and it was negative, because I knew they would never believe me. They would never believe me. And I also will confess, even I myself did not understand, because the doctor didn't understand. So who am I to understand when the doctor can't understand? So he said, you know, you'll have to do the test again after 6 weeks. We repeat the test and we see what happens. I made a decision very early that even after that 6 weeks, I'm not going to take another test. If I have HIV, I will never transmit it to anybody. If I don't have HIV, I will never catch it from anybody. And I realized quite early that for both situations, what you have to do is the same.
Now, in terms of your success, I believe at the time when TASO finally became so popular, it was it's still up to now one of the support groups for psychosocial support. That clearly stood out. What are some of the other things you can say, we did this differently, that's why we were able to ensure that the prevalence rate went low?
Yes. I think I should mention that during that time, we had one very clear advantage, and I will always mention that advantage, that we had a political leader, President Yoweri Museveni, who decided that he will be open about what Uganda was going through with regard to HIV and AIDS. At that time, many African leaders kind of shied away from articulating that. In fact, I remember we would go to meetings, and whenever we spoke about AIDS in Uganda, other Africans would approach and they said, "You Ugandans, are you crazy? Why are you so open about this pandemic? It will stop, it will completely destroy your tourism industry. People will stop coming to your country." So I say that the environment that was created by the decision made by the government to be open about HIV was very, very, very supportive. The other one was, at the time, we were also very, because my husband was diagnosed in England, when he was discharged from the UK, we asked for him to be discharged because he said, well, I know that I'm not going to live long, but I don't want to die before going back home. I don't want to die before doing something about raising awareness about this disease. And when he made that decision, the hospital, Castle Hill Hospital, where he had been admitted, packed us off with a lot of medicines for treating opportunistic infections. So the people who came to us, not only just for counseling, they realized that when you came to us with an opportunistic infection, for example, one of the worst infection that was preventing people from eating was having sores in the mouth. So we came with medicine that we would give people, and the person would come and after a week and come back and say, I'm feeling better, I'm able to eat better. We also had medicine that would arrest some of the excessive diarrhea. So when people came to us and we shared with them those medicines, and they came back and feeling much better, they said, well, yeah, what you are saying actually works. And that's where we coined the term of living positively and dying with dignity. The living positively was that people, even if they were dying, at least they shouldn't die with so much pain. They should be helped to die without pain. And also dying with dignity was to do with the stigma. Because we know as a country, as a nation, we are very compassionate, we are very empathetic people. If you are sick, your family tells the rest of the family, so and so is sick, we have taken them to Zambia, we have taken them to Mulago. Then people start streaming in to come and visit you. But people were not visiting each other. As soon as they realized that person had AIDS, they just ran. So that's where dying with dignity came from. The other element was we began to see that small children were being left to nurse their parents. You arrive at a homestead, the rest of the adults are there and they say, oh, Tasso, you have come. Your person is behind there in the other room out there. You would go there and then you find a child, a small child, is the one who takes the food to the person who is sick. And the rest, we are just folding their hands, waiting for the person to die. So we said, dying with dignity. I mean, a person to die being nursed by your own 7-year-old, 8-year-old was a devastating indignity that was being bestowed upon people who are dying with AIDS. So we coined a theme, said, living positively and dying with dignity. I'm glad today we know that when you have HIV, it can be treated. So we have taken off the dying with dignity because we have realized we have come a long way. But at that time, if you knew you had HIV, you had AIDS, the next step, you were dying. So we began to also coin another theme that energized us a lot. Said, AIDS is a family disease. If the family rejects you, you are gone. If the family decides that they will be with you through the journey, even if you die a happy person. And that theme continues today in the work that Tasso does. Today, we know that even if you have HIV, you are treatable. If you have HIV, you can get to a stage where if your virus is undetectable and you commit to taking your medicines consistently according to the guidance of the doctor, you get to a stage where you are no longer able to transmit HIV to another person. Never mind if you are a young lady, you are a young couple, you may not even be young, but you want to have a child. It is possible for a woman who tests HIV positive but adheres to the instructions of the healthcare worker can bear a child without HIV. At that time, the story was different. Very, 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 very sad. The early patients would come with their children. Then a month later, the woman comes without the child and says, but where is the child? Say, well, the child died. And that's why personally, I feel very, very vindicated. The efforts that we put in the beginning. Today, I think Ugandans know that there is an organization called Baila Uganda. They initiated the pediatric caring that is targeted primarily on the children who have HIV or who are born by families that have HIV. And that has completely transformed the scene. So we also were very, very, very emphatic on saying that it takes two to transmit a virus. If we care for those who have the virus and they realize that they have the power to limit the spread of that infection, then we will stop HIV transmission. That's what we are seeing today.
Then when you talk about that, now when we go to World AIDS Day, there is the communication, or there is actually now it is public information that you remember around your time when you say when Christopher was diagnosed, you were in your 30s, but now it's the reverse. It is the younger generation between the age bracket of 15, maybe, and like 19 or so, and more especially the girl child. What's your take on what is going on?
What is going on is a mix of things. It's really sad, but it's a reality that is born from the fact that this is my personal perspective. You can read the official perspective from the Uganda AIDS Commission. It is a mix of things that are happening. The 15 to 25 age group, within that age group, there are also children who were born with HIV. Because don't forget that the reality of bearing children without HIV as a result of access to antiretroviral treatment is like 10 years in this country. So that's one. The other one, sadly, the issue of intergenerational sex continues. Older, particularly men, are targeting younger girls in the hope that they are still free, and therefore, and these are selfish individuals, and I'm not saying every man, but unfortunately, as a human race, we have good people and not so good people. These are specifically targeting these girls, saying, I don't want to wear condoms, I don't want to be inconvenienced, so I'll go for the younger ones who are not yet infected. The other one is, I think, is a mix of, we have, I think, kind of candidly taken the foot off the pedal of information dissemination. Partly because there is this totally misinformed information circulating that there is treatment for HIV. So I shouldn't care so much about HIV. Now that is total misinformation. Yes, there is treatment that makes the virus, kind of affects the virus in such a way that you can live full life, but you have to be on that treatment for the rest of your life. It takes over your life. But also, people need to recognize that this treatment is today being made available by the kind donation of our international community. Totally. Because there is no way where we are today as a country that we could ever afford to buy those medications for everybody who needs them if the spread of HIV continues. That's why, again led by TASO, the Ugandan community decided that you cannot mop the floor dry if the tap keeps leaking. Because we started by focusing in TASO, we started by focusing on those who have HIV. We care for them, we motivate them, and they become the instrument of change, of sexual change. But while we do that, we don't want the tap to continue leaking. So that's why you hear today, every organization, TASO inclusive, makes effort to both contribute to prevention, primary prevention, disseminate correct information, encourage young men to be circumcised medically, encourage couples that are going to have children to be tested. And in fact, I should have started with testing, because until you know your status, you don't know what category you fall in. You don't know what action you need to take. Now, but that information is no longer equitably available, especially among young people in a language they understand. We have remained in the old mode of communicating the way you and I learned about HIV. Now, the young person today is a TikToker, is, the medium of communication for young people is completely different. There is, again, in my perspective, there is another added evil, and that is the use of intoxicating substances. Our strategy of dealing with AIDS, A, B, C, abstinence, be faithful, consistent, correct use of condom is still valid. But if you are under the influence of intoxication, you can't make a decision that enables you to use either of those three. And the growing trend towards intoxicating substances, alcohol, drugs, whatever substances young people are increasingly using, is also partly responsible for the rise in new infections. The other one, and because I am on speaking with the media people, the media was a critical tool we used consistently to inform Ugandans. Today, we only do it during December, sporadically, and also unless you have funding to get space on media, it is very rare that you are able to communicate to our people. So unless we unblock that media channel, find an innovative way of making regular airtime available in the local languages, using the churches, using the mosques, using the infrastructure that we already have on the community, I think there's been some element of relaxation. And also, I think it's also very important for parents to also take some part of the blame. We are running around, making money, chasing money. We don't necessarily equitably provide time for the young people to seek help and explanation of things they don't understand. We send children to school and we expect the schools to take charge of everything. So, and just speaking now as a grandmother and saying that we have to go back to basics at so many levels. We have, first of all, to look at the messages that are going out. I chair the Uganda AIDS Commission committee, which clears messages that are disseminated to Ugandans. And I can see that that trend is beginning to catch up. People are now producing messages that are targeted towards the young people, that are able to speak their language. But although the problem is some of their language may not be acceptable culturally or religiously among the older population. So we are struggling a little bit because we want to use their language, but we don't want to offend the judges in the community. So my committee tries to balance that, because we have realized that if we use the same language that the judges understand, the young people don't understand that. They don't want to know that language. So we are really looking towards partners in this country that are eloquent in producing messages to sort of, balance up. Not use language that is not accepted, especially in our culture, but use language that young people can understand.
Now, it's quite amazing when you talk about some of these things, and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, I think there's some areas where you can clearly see that's where the problem is. Now, at the time when you were going through the phase after Christopher had passed on, how were you able to balance single motherhood with the big responsibility of ensuring that the support organization you set out to put out is able to bear and hold the flag high up to today?
Going back to my own personal experience, and I say this I try to share this in my memoir, I thank God that I was endowed right from my birth with some very selective pillars of resilience, of survival. And these, I sometimes summarize them as my 3 Fs, letter F. The first one is faith in God. The second one is family. The third one is friends. And all of these 3, they have many branches. And one of the key branches, and I always say, I was blessed in the sense that tragedy befell me after I already had a concrete and very firm foundation of a good education. I went to Mount St. Mary's in Amagonga, the best school in the world. So by the time things were happening and I was receiving this diagnosis, I was already, like I said, I was already the principal of the School of Physiotherapy. So what they were talking about, I was able to understand almost instantly. So I didn't have the dilemma of checking the language and saying what he's saying and then running off to the... And because I had a good education, I also had a faith in God. I worship with the Catholic Church, and I was able to distinguish between Bakuroga and a scientific disease that is going on in my husband's body. The other one, and faith also, I had faith in my husband. Because I get asked quite often, how come that you didn't get angry with him? When we found that you were negative, he was positive. To tell you the truth, I had no time for anger. The only time the anger I had was against stigma. I had no time. You know, when you see the man you love, the father of your children, and the doctor tells you, well, you don't have much time. It is the most urgent is to see what can I do to make his life better while he's here with me. So I did not have any space to blame him or ask him, where did you get it from? And that's what I say to people who I meet. You waste your time asking where the virus came from. It's like finding a snake. It comes into your house, it's molesting your family, it is molesting a family. Instead of getting the stick, hit the snake, make it, after it is dead, you've thrown it out. Then you say, hey, by the way, where did this stick come from? That's what I did. After my husband died, I began to ask myself, where did this virus come from? But I did not, it wasn't, where did he get it from? To bring it to my family. That's another very, very important emotion to overcome once you get a diagnosis of HIV in the family. But I was able to quickly find out that, my husband had, and you probably don't know, but you will know from today, he had an accident in 1983 on Bombo Road there. He was crossing the road, he was run over by a bus. Those buses used to be called Cochlear. I think they are off the road because I prayed to God to take them off the road. So, and he had a fracture. He was taken to Mulago Hospital, and during the whole month while he was given 8 units of blood. At that time, 1983, there was no testing, routine testing of blood for HIV, because we didn't even know we had HIV. We knew, the ministry knew, but we were still struggling. What is it? Where is it? If you ask Dr. Rwegaba, I really encourage you to find Dr. Rwegaba, because he's the first man who identified the first case of AIDS. He's there, and I think His Excellency honored him this last World AIDS Day at Rakai. So by the time I was able to know that, he was gone. There was nothing I could do, but it gave me the energy to be able to speak to couples when they find that one is HIV infected, the other one isn't, to sort of try and help them to reconcile around caring for each other. And I'm glad, because I interact a lot with the discordant couples. And I speak with them and I encourage them and I say, it is possible for you to live together, even as a couple.
Then, doctor, that brings me to the question of, like, now that you've talked about that, how? Because I imagine there are certain times there is still that perception of where people believe since you're discordant, you need to run away. You were widowed at a young age. How did you move on with your life? This is now a little bit, you know, did you still choose to close in and say, now that this happened, this is where my focus is and the energy? Because you said your catchphrase was like, you have to make sure you stay safe. Yes. How would you encourage discordant couples now? Because there are certain times people think, and the families are the ones, like you said, among your Fs, many families do not accept and do not want to hear of the fact that a couple is discordant and they are moving on together.
Yeah, it's not a decision that you can prescribe for anybody, but you can take them through a counseling process and they make a decision for themselves. Because I have always said, HIV does not split families. And if you see a family which has been split by the diagnosis, only by the diagnosis of HIV, or by the or having only girls or having only boys, they already had other problems. And this one is just the immediate one they are using to split. I personally, I mean, I was only 32 years old when I was widowed. It took me a long time to trust. You know, when you lose a spouse, it's like sometimes you get to a stage, especially with HIV, there is also, people don't realize the survival guilt. You feel guilty sometimes that you have survived something that has taken your loved one with so much pain. Sometimes as they go through the pain, you wish you could share the pain and make it less for them. And once they die, that feeling of guilt does not just melt away. And every time the children are going through a step in life and the other one is not there, you say, I wish he was here, I wish she was there. If she was there, that wouldn't happen. If that wouldn't happen. But it doesn't mean that your body stops functioning. You still function as a woman or as a man. But for me, like I already have shared, I had already taken a decision that if I find somebody I'm attracted to, and who proclaim that they are attracted to me, the first conversation between us is to remind them, if they don't already know, that my husband died of AIDS. And then usually, at least in my experience, usually once you do that, they don't come back. Then you know that human being was not part of you, it was not meant to be part of your life. But from time to time, I did come across one or two human beings who said, well, yeah, I understand. I don't know very much about AIDS, but I am happy to learn from you. And then you say, okay, that conversation is taken on to another level. You get a counselor. And fortunately, the woman who was my matron, and for who I was a matron when she was getting her husband, is still alive. And she's my best friend. And she's a counselor. So all this I'm talking about, she knows. Because she's been there, part of my journey. getting into a relationship is a journey. In my life, it has been a journey. It has very specific steps. Conversation, information, counseling, then making a decision. Because by the time, as I said, by the time Christopher died, we had already made a decision that we're not going to have any more children. And as you know, in our culture, it is the woman who has the responsibility to implement that decision. So I had already had my terminal fertility journey closed. I had before my husband died. So that conversation also has to come out and say, you know, yes, I can see you are very intrigued by me, but do you know that when you were in my life, me, I can't have children. I don't know if you want children. And that's step 2. And if they want children, off they go. So the line gets shorter and shorter until you get to a stage, you get to someone who is genuinely interested in you. And of course, the other element which I will never leave out, prayer. We speak lightly about take it to the Lord in prayer. This is something I prescribe to many people who find themselves in a similar situation, like take it to the Lord in prayer. After you've had that conversation, just take it to Mother Mary. And although she didn't have a personal experience like that, but she's wise. She's a wise woman. When the angel talked language she didn't understand, she said, he just said, your will be done. She didn't understand, but she had faith. So that has been the story of my life. Right now, I don't have a person in my life. I would like a person in my life. So if there is anyone who wants to go through the steps, it doesn't happen overnight. It is a step by step.
Now, Doctor, I'd like to ask you another one. We strongly say, for you, it's something that has been there. Let the communities lead. You have used the communities to be able to make the foundation of TASO. Right now, much as you retired of TASO and you're the patron, it is still going strong. As you retired of UNAIDS, I do not know whether that was some of the key words that you were using there or some of the messages that you'd still pass across. Ending AIDS by 2030, is it doable? Is it achievable?
It is achievable, but it is only a goal. A goal is an aspiration. It's a global aspiration. If I look at where we are today, yes, it is achievable, and we must all collectively commit to that aspiration. But as our commitment, there are things we need to twist and twitch in order for us to make that goal. And I'll begin from the broader. Let me begin at home here in Uganda. One of the elements that is lagging behind is the policy frameworks within which we are working to control AIDS. If you are aware, or if you are not, I would encourage you to read the HIV Prevention Act that was approved by Parliament and assented by the President. That act is beautiful, but it has elements in it, elements related to human rights that threaten that act and to stop it from achieving what we are supposed to achieve. And these elements are about intentional transmission. It's about mostly informing, that a healthcare worker can inform the person of my status without my consent. Now, those elements threaten and stop people going to know their status, because implicitly, if I find a man who I have appealed for here today, and we go through the steps, now if I am the first, I already know my status. that guy can turn around and say, Noreen gave me HIV infection. Now, I don't know whether if, much as he didn't disclose to me, he may have already been infected. But because I am the person who is known to have HIV infection, and there is no technical way anyone today can check that the infection that he says I gave him is my infection. You see that? So, many people who won't be bothered, I will not take my test, because if I take my test, if I am in a situation like that in a court, I am the guilty one. So whatever I don't know will not hurt me. You see that potential? Equally, the anti-homosexual bill, I mean, and all these things, today in this meeting, we've been revising these things, because we as civil society, whenever these bills were being drafted, we always sat with the legislators, we guided them, we said, look, this element and this element and this element in this bill is already present in the penal code. We don't need to stand it out and put it, because it will put the minorities in this country who are very vulnerable into a situation where they feel persecuted. Now, so the legislative framework needs to be tweaked again. And for us, we will not stop asking. Gently, we are not forcing, because I mean, Ugandans, we are an indigenous country. We are independent. So once the legislators vote, and these are the people we put in parliament, so we as civil society, we can't sort of stand up and protest against them, because they represent the people. But we need to twist and twitch those elements and take them out in order to allow the minorities who today are feeling very marginalized. And they are feeling, we know we keep saying about, saying we leave no one behind. But if the legislative framework leaves some people behind, then we are leaving people behind. That is, so that we need to do that. The other one, we need to get the media back into the driving seat. We need you guys to have a regular program allotted to providing information on HIV and AIDS. Parents need to regain their responsibilities as parents. My mother did not go to school, but she taught me the basics I needed to be able to stand today where I stand. So those twists and teaching. The other one, which is very important, we need to harness our local resources a bit more to become less and less dependent on the mercy of the international community. We are very grateful. They have given us a lot of support, but there are some elements of what we need to do which only us as Ugandans understand. So we need to harness, and I can even give a very, very eloquent appeal. Ugandans, TASO is a membership organization. You become a member of TASO not by virtue of the fact that you are HIV positive, but by virtue of the fact that you care. You care to defeat AIDS. As a member, you can become a member from a range of 10,000 a year, 10,000 a year, to 50 million a year. And with that money, we are able to do innovative things, some of which are not understood by our international partners, which we think are important for us. Like, for example, in amplifying the voice of those who are HIV positive and are willing to use their experience to accompany the rest of the community to bring the reality of HIV home. Because we have men, women, and children who are able and ready, but they need to be trained, they need to be supported, to be available as members of the village health committee, open And they are willing, but we don't have the resources that are targeted towards that. Music, dance and drama is a key medium. That is one of the least funded items among the things that for which we receive funding internationally. And yet it's the most informative to our people.
Yeah, very true. I do really appreciate it. It's been very wonderful for you to come out and spare time of your busy schedule and be able to share this useful information, especially to the young people who did not know about you, who did not possibly know about TASO, who possibly think it is a government entity. We do really appreciate for your precious time. Thank you so much. And the public who've been watching, I am telling you, we can take the whole day. We can sit and extract a lot of information from her because you can see how passionate she is about the topic. But please do listen out carefully to some of the things she's talked about. You can visit the TASO website for more information. For me, it has been a whole wealth of experience sitting with the founder member of TASO, and she's retired. She's just acting as a patron right now, and also one of the people who is been very supportive, much as she retired of it, that is UNAIDS, and they have supported a lot in a lot of the policies and are still ongoing. So much as she's not in the country most of the times, I believe we shall always look out for her as U-Health Chat, and we find time to extract some very useful and pertinent information from her. That's all we had for you tonight. Thank you for watching. Keep watching UBC TV for the 10 o'clock news is coming your way shortly. Good night.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.